the urge was there to do simple advertising that just tags the TV show and puts them just on the show, basically saying, yeah, we're here supporting it. But they wanted to go a little further than that, and their brief was, we actually want to get people involved. Mobile wasn't necessarily the answer, but that was their brief. So our response to that was, okay, let's actually use some technology that allows regular Australians to actually get involved and run their own amazing race. That's pretty much the idea. Mobile was a perfect solution for that, because it's obviously in everybody's pockets if you've got a smartphone. And through that technology, you can actually be out there in the real world really dealing with the amazing race and running the race. So we created an app and a competition, and we actually dropped real markers, real roadblocks out there in the real world for people to collect and run into through the app. And then you could actually accrue prizes, the grand prize being a trip to all of the locations on the television show. So it was really successful. The numbers kind of speak for themselves, and I'll just play you a very short case study on that video.
The Amazing Race is now a global phenomenon with an audience of millions. In fact, it's so popular, over 100,000 Australians applied to take part in the first Amazing Race Australia, but only 22 were lucky enough to be chosen. The brief was to promote Vodafone's sponsorship of the Amazing Race Australia in a way that would engage Amazing Race fans through the power of mobile technology. We created an augmented reality mobile game which allowed users to run their own Amazing Race over 6 weeks while the show aired. Our audience was invited to hit the streets and track down virtual markers located across Australia. The player who collected the most points won a round-the-world trip for 2, visiting all the destinations featured on the TV show. Using their smartphones, viewers collected markers that were placed all across Australia. Players accumulated points by chasing down and collecting markers using augmented reality, or alternatively, by scanning markers located on posters, magazines, TV, and in-store. Players were given 3 user-generated markers to drop, earning them bonus points when the markers were collected by the other players. Staying true to the show, one of these user-generated markers was a roadblock deducting points from the player who collected it. Those points were then given to the player who dropped the marker. During the race, players could redeem their points for instant prizes or accumulate them towards a major prize. The results? The game got 5,457 TV viewers literally off the couch and onto the street, actively running their own amazing race, running a distance of 252,722 kilometres and spending 21,779 hours interacting with the app. For the first time ever, passive TV viewers were empowered to actually participate in their favourite TV show, all through the power of mobile devices.
So yeah, I guess we're putting this up as an example where mobile was part of the idea. Yes, it was the medium, but it was really part of the idea. And without mobile, it wouldn't have worked. We think this is a good reason for using mobile. Also, something that wasn't mentioned in the case study that I thought was a really nice feature. No matter where you were across Australia, when you logged into the game, it located you and therefore dropped some automatic markers around you. So it really had that inclusive feel to it, in the sense you could be absolutely anywhere in Australia and you're actually in the game automatically. You didn't need to come to Sydney or go to wherever it was sort of hubbing from. Yeah, so that's an example, we believe, of a good use of mobile.
So the next part of our discussion is really to start to think about when and how we could use mobile as part of our campaigns, part of an integrated campaign, or standalone to build the brand that we're working for. But more often than not, you may well end up in a conversation with somebody in your agency or in the company that you work for, and they'll come to you and they'll say, we need an app. We need an app, and maybe we also need it in Android as well. And more often than not, I think that this leads to a bit of wastage. Sometimes when technology leads your idea or the solution, it's almost like the tail wagging the dog. We feel like it's very important to consider where the technology piece fits into this question and how we would answer it. But if you do let technology lead the idea, like we need an app for this major baking company, then you will often waste time, money and effort and consider having an expensive set of reworks. One very current example in Victoria is the 8,000 one-star ratings of the Public Transport Victoria app. If anyone's here from PTV, apologies, but everyone was very happy with the Metlink app system, and the Public Transport organisation has reworked its application. It should be a wonderful app, but based on limited time, money and effort, they haven't really considered the full feature set, and so they're really getting slammed in the ratings game. So, what are the right reasons? We really feel that if you're going to be developing mobile ideas, that there should be some sort of planning methodology, a bit of a filter, and we've called these our 5 factors. We like to run these as a bit of a sense check over the way that we would develop mobile ideas and make sure that they would actually tick the box and be able to pass these tests. We're going to talk through a little bit more about brand relevance, making sure that the mobile idea actually fits within what we should be doing for our brand, lives in culture, the people, the company and the competitors that we're trying to compete against, has a strategic role as part of the marketing plan, is aligned with what technical functions and features phones can actually provide to us at the moment, and that we know what success looks like and we can measure that performance. So just in a little bit more detail, we just want to have a look at brand relevance. For any of those in the creative space, you'll be well familiar with brand guidelines and understanding where you should put logos and how you should use those fonts and typography and colour palettes. But more subtly, we should probably understand the positioning of the brand that we're working with, who we're trying to target, what business we're in, what's our point of difference, and how can we really make that sing out. We also need to talk about how the mobile idea lives in culture and, more importantly, understand customer behaviour. So I'll just take this sample here as my sample audience, my target market segment. And I'd just like people to raise their hands if they have participated in this behaviour today. Has anybody used their phone today to do a mobile search? Okay, mobile application. Have you used an app today? A game? Have you played a game? Okay, gamers. Have you posted a tweet while you're at this event to update your social profile? So there's obviously varying different behaviours, but if you have a brief and you're talking to a particular target audience, you should really understand how they use their phone, when they use it, what types of behaviour they have, and when it's permissible to have a brand interact with them and in what way they would like it to happen. We should understand the company that we're working with, what are their resources, human resources, financial resources, time, and the way that they can actually contribute to making this idea work. We should also understand how our competitors are marketing in this space. What are they doing? So if they're all of a sudden zigging, we can zag. We can find some clear space that we can own. If Nike was going to come out with a running app, you wouldn't want Adidas to come out a week after with a jogging app. You know, that would be kind of a bit counterproductive. So we feel it's really important for this particular mobile activity to have a strategic role. You need to understand the brand's strategy as well as the digital strategy. For digital, importantly, we need to understand what content we're producing and how it should engage with people. I think that we were talking about content and the way people expect mobile to be a hyper-personalised medium. It is something that we probably take to bed with us. Hands up if you take your phone to bed. Is it on all night? Okay, interesting. But we do need to understand how we can create some content to interact with people at the right time, and whether or not this particular device is just there to pass on another marketing message to advertise, or whether or not it intends to tell a brand story or follow on that particular journey. Do we intend to capture data along the way, and do we intend to measure its performance or retain customers at the end of it? But it should have some form of strategic role as part of your overall communications plan. The last 2 factors that we'll talk about briefly are whether or not the phone is capable. With Telstra rolling out 4G mobile network and various different 4G smartphones hitting the market, we can now have a full HD screen, the same resolution as the screens that we'll watch in our living rooms. The cameras are capable of recording in full high definition. We've got GPS devices in our phone, which allows ideas like the amazing race for Vodafone to come to life. We can obviously use augmented reality and various different tools in that way. But as our phones progress and as we're accessing more and more data, this creates more and more functions. And we're not exactly sure where 4G will create any new opportunities, but we now obviously see immense behaviour with apps, mobile web, mobile search, online advertising in the mobile space is really taking off. And we see in the analytics on our sites that about 15% of all of our audiences visiting our sites are on mobile devices. The behaviours are all obviously trending very highly. Social networking is just skyrocketing. Video calls are likely to continue to increase. And we see a lot more people playing games and utilities becoming part of people's functional lives. So finally, just in terms of these 5 filters, we need to know what success looks like, because I think we've all been in a situation where we've launched a campaign idea and at the end we said, well, we didn't measure that. We should really have thought about that as a success criteria. It's always important to up front when you're conceiving this idea, making sure that you know what success is likely to look like. Capture those measures, look at them in the analytics, and make sure that if you can continue to tailor its performance throughout the course of its launch, that you try and do that. So now a little bit of a conversation about the ideas that are good, some bad, and some a little ugly.
20 minutes goes really fast. So does anyone have any questions about that part? That's kind of the bulk of the presentation. Any questions at this stage, or shall I roll into a few examples? Yeah? Rolling along. Okay, cool. So yeah, we're just going to look at some good mainly, and then a couple of bad and ugly as well. I mean, in our opinion, mobile and mobile apps are actually still only now just being categorised. So we've got 4 what we believe to be good examples. We only did one of them, so we're not being that biased. And we've also given them a name, which is what we believe really, I guess, encapsulates each one. So, for example, Kaching for Commonwealth Bank, really that's the control centre for the idea. Every piece of the campaign comes in and out of that point. So it's kind of the vital part of the campaign, and without it, there really would be no campaign. Whereas Checkout is more like an eBay app, for example. eBay exists obviously in a big way without the app, but the app is that way to get to purchase, to actually check out, to actually make the cash registers ring. So that's the role that it plays in that campaign. Also, you've got a team player. So for example, the app for the age. It's one component that helps to sort of amplify the rest of the campaign, but it's not the sole part of it. You know, it's just one of the pieces within the pie. And then finally, the star player. The idea is the mobile app, and everything else is basically supporting that. There's probably more categories of apps as well out there, but these are kind of like the 4 that we really see coming through strongly. So yeah, the control center, the checkout, the team player, and then the star player, depending on the role within a campaign. So yeah, these are some examples of what we think are really good. This is an example of one that we think is really bad. Clearly that's a QR code that's flying very high in the sky. The idea being that you would take a photo of that and then you know, go forward with the communication, which seems pretty hard. It was actually for a sunscreen brand, I believe. Toothpaste, that's right, toothpaste in Europe. So yeah, just a bad example of use of technology, I guess. And then sometimes, you know, these sort of ideas are just wrong. We're calling it ugly, I guess. You know, a weird place for a QR code, basically. So, guys, that's basically us. That's a little over 20 minutes. Please, if there are any questions or comments, yeah, let's chat now. Go for it.
5,000 active users. How is that? Sorry, in regards to the 5,000 users of the app, how is that measurable compared to other apps that are out there? So where did that sit? At the high, mid?
Well, it depends, because it's all about level of involvement. It was a very involved app in the sense that you had to play it for 8 weeks. You know, you were kind of physically in the outdoors, actually walking around collecting things, so it was highly involved. So we saw that as hugely successful, just due to the level of involvement. Certainly there are apps that would have more people getting involved with a campaign, but from our point of view, based on how involved you had to be, we felt like it was really successful. And it certainly, you know, it certainly stood up versus other apps when it comes to, you know, awards and stuff like that, if you care about that stuff. So yeah, we felt pretty good about that number. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a very engaged audience, and once they got on board, obviously they're watching the show, so we had that other great medium playing into our favour. So it was like, as you watched the show, you played the games. It was in symphony, but yeah, we felt like people were engaged for a long time, which was great.
I'm just trying to get the elevator pitch for augmented reality. Someone asked me what it is, so I just want to be able to respond in about 30 seconds what it actually is.
Okay. Well, I think it's a really simple way to get a consumer or end user to interact with your brand. Simple as that. It's basically a conduit of information. So that would be the pitch in my mind. But personally, I'd be saying NFC is better. That would be my pitch. But because there's less friction. It's basically swipe or tap as opposed to photograph, download and visit a site. So to me, what's really going to hit in this area is things with the least amount of friction, because we're all really impatient and we want to just be able to get our smartphone and tap or swipe something. So I think QR codes are great because you're able to get information and interact with a brand quickly. NFC is just quicker. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, most of us are business owners, so it's more of a,
yeah.
As soon as you start talking even brand, they start to lose it. You know, so I represent about 400 or 500 small businesses in terms of online strategy for them. So I'm coming here to listen to people like yourselves and go back to these small business owners and say, look, here are 3 or 4 technologies you should be considering.
Yeah.
So NFC, I don't know, is it out of their league or?
Look, NFC or QR codes are not the idea. Really what they get after that interaction is what counts. So if those small businesses have got something brilliant that consumers need to see, whether it be a website or a form to fill out or a reward to gain or a brand story to be told, then just use the mechanism with the least amount of friction would be my advice. In saying that, NFC hasn't really caught on yet, and that's actually what we're going to talk about next, but that's due to price of each scanner, etc., etc. But it is heading below 5 cents, at which point, in my humble opinion, it will go off. And certainly all mobile phone providers are now building NFC in as standard, aside from iPhone. So, that coupled with online wallets, i.e. your phone becomes your wallet, when those two things collide, you've got to imagine there's enough utility there and enough ease that it's really going to take off. That's kind of the sales pitch around NFC, but anyway, whatever. Hopefully that helps.